Is second base the best of the Mariners' three main areas of need to address internally? We'll talk about that and more coming up here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Monday, December 2nd, 2024. This is Tony Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'll be opening up the mailbag and answering your Mariners questions like we do here every Monday. And we'll also be spinning the wheel for our top 5 Tuesday topics. But before we do that, shout out to our title sponsor today, FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and get started with $150 in bonus bets. If you win that first $5 bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. And if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, check out our Patreon. All you have to do is click the link in the description of this episode. All right, so kicking us off here on Mailbag Monday is Dylan Moore's shoulders. Since the M's have little money to spend this offseason, if you had to choose only one of second base or third base to be filled via trade/free agency, which would you guys prefer? Assuming that the position you don't choose is then filled by in-house players, which of Bliss/Shenton do you guys have more confidence in? So it's interesting that you asked that question because Kim Rosenthal today wrote an article talking a little bit about the Mariners and said that the Mariners feel that they are positioned well enough to address second base internally with guys like Dylan Moore, Ryan Bliss, etc. So part of the reason that I picked this question was, Colby, to get your thoughts on what Rosenthal had to say. And then we'll talk about, if you had to choose between second or third, which one would you prefer to address internally?
Yeah. The idea that Dylan Moore and Ryan Bliss is a tandem that should make you feel good about where you're at second base is one of the most idiotic things I have ever heard in my entire life. Don't we know who Dylan Moore is at this point? Like, look, I'm a Dylan Moore stan, obviously. This is well known.
Right. Yeah.
I love Dylan Moore.
Sure.
He's not an everyday player. We know
you love Dylan Moore like I love Thanksgiving.
Excuse me. Whose flag list was he on? So,
sure.
Yes.
Was he?
Yes, he was. Dylan Moore's
Someone
not an
fact check that for us, please.
I know he is. I know he was. Dylan Moore's not an everyday player. We know this. He's not an everyday player, nor is he a strong side platoon player. Every year, seemingly, he gets about a month where he plays every day. And it always starts off pretty good. And then eventually he gets overexposed and he starts to strike out too much. He misses pitches he should hit. He's just not that guy. He is a guy who should play, a couple times a week. You play him all over the place. That's who he is. That's who he should always be. So pairing him with a unproven Ryan Bliss and saying that's good enough at second base, all the while hoping and praying that Cole Young can be a viable major leaguer at the age of 21 years old, and that's the grand plan.
Yeah.
You're stupid. You're stupid. That is not the way a World Series contender operates. It's not. So the Mariners thinking we're okay at second base. We really don't need to add at second base. You're stupid. Now, when you add in the context of, hey, we only have so much money to spend, and we're going to spend, for some reason, we're just dead set on spending $5 to $8 million of it to go get Turner or Santana. Okay. My solution would be don't spend $5 million, $6 million, $8 million on Turner or Santana. Because I'd rather have a second baseman and a third baseman than a first baseman. Because I already have a first baseman. His name's Luke Ray. He's actually proven to be a good major league hitter. So, don't love the idea that, the Mariners are trying to sell us on Dylan Moore and Ryan Bliss, neither one of whom you should trust to hit right-handed pitching with any regularity. By the way, they're not even natural platoon partners. They're both right-handed hitters who are both going to have more.
Well, I don't think it's like, oh, they're both going to tackle second base. I think it's one of them is until Cole Young shows up, and then maybe they platoon one of the righties with Young, or Shenton platoons with one of the. Shenton has played second base in the past. I don't know how recently he last played second base though.
He should not be.
So,
to answer the question, the first part of the question, I would much rather they actually try and tackle second base than third base if I had to choose one. Why? There's just more options.
There are
second base.
There are, yes.
And so the correct answer is actually no. You need to tackle both. You need to address both of those positions.
Yes.
You cannot go into 2025 with a Dylan Moore sized hole at either second base or third base. That's not what good teams do. Okay. But since, the information we have right now says that's probably what they're going to do. And since we know it's largely related to their payroll, we'll have to see if there's something they can do to create more space, or if there's, a player who's pre-arb that they can acquire to play those spots without giving up from their pitching, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, there's just not a lot of solutions at third base. And that's not just in the free agent market and the trade market. That's just around baseball. There are not a lot of good third basemen in baseball. You're more likely to find a good quality second baseman than you are a third baseman in baseball right now. And so that's why I would prefer they go and they spend their resources there. There's just more. There's just more talent there. So if you're putting all your eggs in the third base basket, essentially what you're saying is it's Alec Bohm or bust. Because that's it really for what's out there. Or what, you're going to trust Yoan Moncada? And you're going to have Yoan Moncada and Dylan Moore starting every day? Yeesh. And all of that in just the pursuit of making sure you land Carlos Santana. If you told me hey, the Mariners went out and the Phillies wanted, Colt Emerson for Alec Bohm and obviously they weren't willing to do that. So they're just going to kind of try and fix, patch it together with Dylan Moore and Yoan Moncada. But they went out and they got Nico Horner to play second. I'd be like, okay, that makes sense to me because there aren't that many options at third. If you tell me that oh, well, now they went and they brought in Alec Bohm, but they're still rolling with Dylan Moore at second base. I'm like, they didn't try hard enough. Get this done. I don't care what the restrictions are. This is the club. You are in your window. You have to find a way. Money be damned. You have to find a way. And that means you have to overpay a little bit with prospects to fix second and third base, both of them. Then you just do it.
You put yourself in this position. You traded Eugenio Suarez. You were wrong about him.
Yeah.
And now you're in this position partly because of that decision. Mm-hmm. So,
you also non-tendered Josh Rojas, who could have played second or third. You decided, we're going to go and we're going to do better. And it's okay. But if you don't I don't think this is overstating it. Jerry DiPoto is staking his job essentially on Dylan Moore or Ryan Bliss, if this report is true. Yeah. Because if the Mariners do not make the playoffs,
which I have reason to believe that it is, because there has been other little rumblings here and there over the last few weeks about they're probably going to address two of the three needs.
Right. And since
externally
they seem hell bent on giving, Carlos Santana $8 million. There you go. Right. And so obviously factored in with the Jude report, essentially Jerry DiPoto is, or should be, fighting for his job this year. This is it. If you don't make the playoffs this year, you're fired. Would they actually do that? I don't know, because Jerry's really good at what John Stanton cares most about. So we talked about this last, fall. So we're not going to
building that competitive enough ball club to keep you relevant in the late, stages of the season, to keep people coming to the ballpark and all that stuff. Yeah, he's really good.
Very, very good at that. Yeah. And to be fair, I also think he'd be very, very good at building a World Series contender if the ownership group wanted to pursue that avenue. I think Jerry could do that too. So we'll see what they want to do, but make no mistake about it. From the outside looking in, Jerry DiPoto is banking his baseball career. He's probably not getting a second shot or a third shot at this. If the Mariners fire him. He's going to bank at that on Ryan Bliss or Dylan Moore. And by the way, that's the answer to the second part of your question. Austin Shenton shouldn't play third base. I don't think that's realistic.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why, just because the Mariners really don't have an in-house third base option either. And it's like, well, I mean, we have a couple guys who play second in the high minors. So,
well, then maybe you should have tendered Josh Rojas if you're trying to, thread this needle here, but whatever.
We'll see. Things change on a dime in the offseason. You never know who's going to become available. You never know who's going to sign where. That makes player X all of a sudden available. Like, we don't know for sure that this report is true, and we don't know what the Mariners' payroll is. We don't know what if they trade Luis Castillo, and and blah blah blah. Like, there are plenty of avenues that open up plenty of other opportunities, but based on what we know right now, yeah, it is not a good situation. The correct answer is you shouldn't be okay with rolling unproven or part-time players at either of these positions. But if I had to choose one, I would rather they do that at third base, because there's just not as many opportunities to upgrade there.
All right, so we are going to answer more of your questions here in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is once again brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. It is Mailbag Monday, and we're going to answer more of your questions here in just a moment. But hey, our giveaway has officially wrapped up. It's Colby. We are not announcing the winners on today's show. I think we're going to do that on Wednesday. I think that's the best opportunity for us to do it. Where did we wind up? What are we ultimately giving away?
I don't know, Ty. You tell me.
Do you tell me?
You tell me.
Are you
make
going to be
executive decision?
Are you going to be a jerk?
You guys did not get to 12.3K by the deadline that is set in our terms and conditions in the description. You got to 12.299. You got to 12.3 between midnight last night and I don't know, about 8 o'clock today. So technically we're not supposed to give away the third. So yeah, I don't know. We should go against our terms and conditions because you guys didn't earn it. And Ty's in favor of like lowering the bar so that others can reach it, whereas I like to raise the bar to separate the.
We're giving it to you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, anyways,
we're giving it to you guys. So we made it to 12.3K. Thank you guys so much for helping us get there.
Thanks to the 12.299 who did it on time.
So
you two Johnny come latelys, whatever.
So you're giving away the Mitch Haniger card, the Andres Munoz card, and the Mike Cameron card. And I'm also, whoever wins the Mike Cameron card is also getting a $25 gift card to Simply Seattle from yours truly.
Just keep on lowering that bar so more people can reach it, Ty. It's fine.
I'm just trying to be
the Seattle Mariners of giveaways.
I'm trying to be appreciative and thankful of our listeners.
I gave them a shot. They came up one short.
Of course you would be that guy.
Did the 2000 Tennessee Titans also get a Super Bowl ring for coming 1 yard short? Didn't think so. Everybody gets a parade. Oh,
you're insufferable.
Whatever, you got what you wanted.
Yeah.
So yeah, and on the plus side, I get to keep my awesome Victor Robles card and my awesome Cal Raleigh card
until you give it to me.
I would send it to you, but Canada mail's on strike, so like
that's true. It's true. Yeah. That is unfortunate.
Canada.
That has
plus those guys in Canada would probably steal the Cal Raleigh. He's hurt them so much.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. So again, we will announce winners for the 3 tiers that we made on Wednesday. So be sure to tune in on Wednesday's episode to see if he won. And then we'll tell you all the stuff you need to know about how to claim your prize and all that good stuff. All right, let's get back into your questions here on Mailbag Monday. D. Panky wants to know, do you think the Mariners' primary goal right now is to sign either Santana or Turner before the winter meetings? I don't think it's their primary goal, but I do think that if they are going to do something before the winter meetings, that's what it's going to be. They're going to sign one of those guys. I don't think that if they do anything else of like significance between now and when did the winter meetings start? What day
December
is it?
9th.
December 9th. So yeah, between now and next Monday. I don't even know where I was going with that. I just said, I think it's going to be Turner or Santana. So whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be anything more significant than that.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Maybe a reliever signing, maybe a Paul Sewald type of. We'll see if Paul's delusional enough to think somebody is just waiting in the wings to give him a closer job. But so that's probably it's one of their primary goals because apparently they've decided that is the best use for the money, not a second baseman or third baseman, even though they have a perfectly good first baseman already on the roster, blah, blah, blah. Vibes though. Am I right? So yeah.
Colby, we can't quantify leadership.
We can try. So
sure.
Yeah. I mean, Justin Turner's leadership was so good. It led you back on that playoff. Guess not. But had he been there the whole year, he totally would have made up those 3 games just on the leadership. He wouldn't have even had to hit to make up those 3 games on the Astros. That's probably what they're most likely to do. I do think we're going to get some I feel like in the next couple of days, we should get the draft, the competitive balance pick announcement. And that kind of matters for the Mariners because they are expected to get at least a competitive balance B pick. But keep in mind, those picks can be traded. And the Mariners have traded for and traded those away. And so, that's something to track here and is something that I think comes out before the winter meetings, if I'm not mistaken. That could change some things and put some players on the table that aren't currently. But in terms of what's their primary goal right now, embarrass themselves as far as I can tell, and then see if they can get Turner or Santana done. That seems to be what their primary goal is before the winter meetings.
Ken Rosenthal has upset Colby today, if you couldn't tell.
I mean, if he's lying, sure. If he's telling the truth, which I think he probably is, then John Stanton has upset me, but that's just Monday.
Yeah.
That's just every Monday. So
sure. Zach Fisher wants to know, can previous player/coach relationships influence personnel moves? For example, do the hitting coach hires increase the odds at all that we see a deal for a Braves bat this offseason? No, we just did this last offseason with Brent Brown and the Marlins hitters. And even going back to his days with the Dodgers, we talked about Justin Turner, who, did end up becoming a Mariner later on, but after Brent Brown was gone, we talked a lot about Jorge Soler and Jazz Chisholm because they had hit under Brent Brown, and that didn't happen. No. Now, look, sometimes, yes, there are players that are like, oh, hey, that hitting coach that I, played under, a couple of years ago is at this spot. I want to go there, whatever, right? That does happen, but
could be a tiebreaker.
But that's not automatic, right? It's not this thing that we need to start tracking. It's like when Mike McDonald took over for the Seahawks, and everyone's like, "Oh, well, Patrick Queen's going to be a Seahawk," and let's look at all these other Ravens free agents and all that stuff. And did they even sign a player that played for the Ravens last year?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, they might have. The free agent class was so terrible that it's tough to keep track.
Right.
Yeah, no. What could happen here is that if the Mariners were already talking to the Braves about a particular player, they might have some inside info on how that player is in the locker room or the clubhouse or how he work ethic and all that stuff. But no, it's not like Ozzie Albies is I demand a trade to the Mariners now because of my hitting coaches there. No, stuff like that doesn't happen. So it could play a very, very small role, but in general, the answer to your question is no.
Dom Canzone Burner wants to know, besides the obvious, Julio, Cal, etc., who are the biggest swing players on the Mariners for 2025? Whose performance, good or bad, could massively impact the team's performance?
Well, apparently Ryan Bliss and Dylan Moore.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
Cole Young.
I'm not wrong.
Justin Turner or Carlos Santana.
It is whoever is playing second
This
base.
mystery third baseman.
Yeah. It's Ryan Bliss, which is great to count on Ryan Bliss, the guy who has like a 93 WRC plus and 17 plate appearances or whatever it is. Cool. Yeah. Bank
It's
everything
like
on that dude. Awesome strategy, guys. Awesome strategy. But yeah, no, seriously, it's Ryan Bliss. It's Dylan Moore.
It's Victor Robles, actually, because they're putting a lot of eggs in that basket.
I mean, if Robles doesn't work, you still have Luke Raley.
Sure.
Especially if you're going to go waste money on leadership. So,
yeah.
It's Ryan Bliss. It's Dylan Moore.
There are a lot of guys that fit this because they were putting a lot of eggs in certain baskets that I am uneasy about, I would say.
Yeah, it's probably nobody in the bullpen, though, because if somebody falters, they'll find a somewhat viable replacement there.
Sure.
I mean, like maybe you could say like it's Matt Brash, but that's about health and
from a positive standpoint, like if you get Matt Brash back and he's like actually Matt Brash or at least like close enough.
Sure. If he not only beats every reasonable timeline for recovering from Tommy John, he also comes back with better command and control than he's ever had after a year after Tommy.
Or he just needs to be the same guy. The same guy he was.
That always happens.
Sure.
So if he beats both of those odds, then he's huge. And Gregory Santos, if he could just stay healthy, would help a lot.
Colby is in a mood today.
It's just the answer is Ryan Bliss. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't, but apparently it is.
Yeah.
So it's Ryan Bliss and Cole Young. Congrats.
Sure.
4A player and a 21-year-old who might be ready for the big leagues sometime this year or might not. Cool. Let's hang the entire balance of the season on those two guys. Good job. Genius.
Imagine if this is actually the way that they like end the second base curse.
Ryan Bliss is a 3.5 win player. Like, all right, fine, whatever.
You know what? Screw it. Why not?
Sure. Ryan Bliss is going on my flag player list. Yep.
Well, then he's definitely not going to be a 3.5 win player then.
I mean, he's more likely to do that on my list than he is your list.
True. Yikes.
But also JP Crawford's probably on this list somewhere.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. All right. Well, we got a couple more questions of yours to answer here in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Gametime. So I used to live in New Mexico, and down in New Mexico, there are 0 pro sports teams, and a lot of bands and artists that I listen to skip going there more often than not. So when I moved to Toronto, where there's a baseball team, a basketball team, a hockey team, even a soccer team, and there's great music being played every night in the city, I was right in my element. When I want to catch a ball game or my wife and I want to see a band, I always get my tickets through Gametime. And that was the case well before Gametime sponsored our network and before I even joined the network, because it is truly the best ticketing service out there, hands down. I truly believe that. And now it's getting even better thanks to Gametime Picks. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I can just go on the app, it'll show me the best deal right away, it'll show me the exact view I'll have, and most importantly, it'll tell me exactly what I'm going to pay with Gametime's all-in pricing, so there are no annoying little fees that pop up at the last second. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB, that's LOCKEDONMLB, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. It is Mailbag Monday. Let's get into the last couple of questions we have here from you guys, and then we're going to spin the wheel for our top 5 Tuesday topics. Jake wants to know, with the news of Munetaka Murakami saying 2025 will be his last season in Japan, do you think he'd be someone the Mariners pursue? He's going to command too much money. He's going to go to the Dodgers or the Mets or the Yankees or whoever. I know that's a boring answer, but the Mariners, they've shown zero willingness to spend top dollar on really anyone. Doesn't matter the age or anything like that. So until they prove otherwise, I'm just going to assume that they're not even going to try to be involved in that market. As unfortunate as that is, there's also concerns about Murakami and transitioning over to Major League Baseball and all that. But yeah,
I am not so like, even if the Mariners wanted to give him, wanted to compete with like the Mets or whatever. I'm not sure that's the best use of money. This is a guy who strikes out a ton in Japan, and I'm expecting him to come over and not have a strikeout issue in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Plus, the defense, from what I heard, is middling at best. And he's a dude who's seemingly getting worse defensively. Like, I have legitimate questions about that guy, like whether or not he can transition to Major League Baseball. And again, if you're going to give that guy big money, which he's probably going to get, if it takes him a year or two to really settle in and figure out how to, play in Major League Baseball, it's a pretty bad return on your investment. And the Mariners don't take risk like that. So this is actually a risk I'm okay with them sitting out of. But I will say this, I've never seen Murakami play. I've just looked at his numbers. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong here and I'm just doing some box score scouting, but anybody who strikes out that much in Japan, I have legitimate concerns about their ability to hit on any consistent level in the States.
Last question of the day comes from Sal's DR on Blue Sky. Who would make an all-star team of only AL West players? And if that team played the Dodgers in a best of 7, who would win?
AL West all-stars they would. I mean, the Dodgers might win 1 or 2 because they're insanely talented, but just the depth of talent that a whole division can throw at you. Because, I mean, you're talking about Cal Raleigh catching.
Yep.
Probably Ohapi as the backup. Mm-hmm. I mean, or it could be Diaz.
Before we get into the position players, is the starting 5 rotation just all Mariners, or is Framber getting in over
I think Framber gets in, or Ronel Blanco? I think one of those 2 guys probably gets in. Probably for Castillo. The Rangers, no. The Angels.
I mean, healthy DeGrom rotation. Probably, right?
Healthy DeGrom, but I mean, are we going to assume?
I think in this case, let's just assume everyone in the AL West is healthy.
Okay, so probably DeGrom, Gilbert. Mm-hmm. Nobody from Oakland, nobody from the Angels.
Yeah.
So you want to go Framber, Kirby,
Miller
or Wu? I think that's probably the start. Unless maybe I'm forgetting somebody, but I don't think so. Nobody from the Angels.
No. Yeah.
I mean, are you putting
Evaldi's
a
free agent, so no. Evaldi's a free agent, so he doesn't count.
Yeah. So I think 3 of the 5 starters are Mariners.
Yeah.
Munoz is in that bullpen.
Yeah. Mason Miller's in that bullpen.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Hader's probably still in the bullpen.
Yep. I mean, the rest they're all middle guys. Texas, not Yates. Yates is a free agent, so not him.
Yeah.
Robertson's a free agent, so not him. Bullpen I'd probably have to do some more digging.
Yeah.
Estevez would have been on, but they traded him, so.
Yeah.
I'd have to do some more digging on the rest of the bullpen arms, but right there, Munoz, Miller as your 1-2 punch, and then Hader, you're already set to dominate. And then you start adding up the lineup and you go, it's Cal as the starter behind the plate. And then it's, I mean, there's a couple options. You go Diaz or Ohapi as the backup.
Mm-hmm.
First base.
Well, either Rooker or Jordan's going to have to play in the field.
Yeah.
And you could play Rooker at first.
Yeah, I'd probably put Rooker at first.
Mm-hmm.
Second base, Altuve. Third base, Bregman's a free agent, so this is not a lot of good options. Is it Young?
Yeah, it would probably have to be Josh Young. Yeah.
Seager's playing short.
Yep.
Left field, Jordan, unless we want him to DH. Is there anybody else we'd want to DH besides Jordan? I don't think so.
Do we want Trout playing in the field?
Ooh, let's put Trout in left.
Okay.
Julio in center.
Center, yep.
And then right field is
Victor Robles.
Is it Butler?
Kyle Tucker.
Oh yeah, Kyle Tucker's the right fielder.
Yeah.
Butler is on the bench then.
He's on the bench. Bladay's probably on the bench. Simeon's probably on the bench.
Yep. And then Ohapi, the catcher, or Diaz, whichever one you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, that team in a 162 game season probably wins 120 games.
Yeah. Yeah, so, they would beat the Dodgers.
Yeah, they would probably boat race them.
Yeah. Yeah, if we forgot anyone, let us know in the comments below.
Yeah, I mean, we almost forgot Kyle Tucker.
Yeah, we did.
Who, to be fair, did miss most of the season, so.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, like, you're talking about legitimately Julio's hitting like, what, 8th in that lineup? Cal Raleigh might be hitting 9th. Like, I mean, like, the bottom 3 is probably Young, Julio, Cal in some order.
Maybe.
I mean, Trout, Jordan, Tucker, Altuve.
Yeah.
Rooker. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a 120 win team.
Yeah. All right. So, I like that question. It was a good question. More of that, please. If you think of anything creative like that.
Or you could ask us our thoughts about Ryan Bliss. That's always fun.
Yeah, Colby had a great time talking about Ryan Bliss today. All right, before we get out of your hair.
About that because now it's making me hate on Ryan Bliss, and I love Ryan Bliss.
Right. It's like me and the Sam Howell thing. Right. It's like I have no issue against Sam Howell.
But now I have to hate Sam Howell, or it looks like I hate Sam Howell because the people who love Sam Howell won't shut the hell up about Sam Howell.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with Ryan Bliss.
Yeah.
I love Ryan Bliss.
Yeah.
I don't love how much the Mariners apparently love Ryan Bliss, and it's making me hate the Mariners and therefore, by extension, Ryan Bliss.
Yeah. All right. So before we get out of your hair, let's spin the wheel for our top 5 Tuesday topics. See what we're talking about tomorrow. All right. So as you can see, we have the helm up on the screen, or if you're just listening on podcast platforms, we have the wheel, the main wheel, the helm, as we call it. We only have 3 topics left and 2 weeks of a full slate of shows remaining here before we go to 3 shows a week until the middle of February, till pitchers and catchers report. So third base options is still on here. It's been on here since the beginning. Could this be the week? This topic is for me this week, by the way. So let's see what I get. Oh my God. Hey, we got it. All right. So third base options. Well, as we talked about today,
should be a short segment.
Is there even a top 5 possible? I guess.
Stretch.
Far more options on this wheel here for Colby to tackle, to potentially tackle, at least, on tomorrow's show. Let's see what he's going to get.
Hey, did you know Andy Bernard went to Cornell?
I had no idea until you just said that.
Weird.
Ooh, top 5 batting stances.
Okay.
That could be fun. I'm interested to see what kind of parameters you set for this, though. Is it like all time? Is it current? Is it just Mariners?
A lot of the current batting stances are all very like similar. Like we kind of like factory set batting stances a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to go with some unique ones.
Yeah, if it's all time, like Gary Sheffield, Chuck Knobloch.
Sure. I mean, Tony Bautista.
Yeah.
Kevin Youkilis.
Yeah. Ooh,
Pick one of the 1,000 stances that Cal Ripken used.
Craig Counsell.
Yeah. There's some great ones, man. I mean, like, I don't know. Babe Ruth is just kind of iconic.
Yeah.
Babe Ruth's swing literally looks like he's just like, I'm just here to hit home. It's slow pitch softball batting stance. Yeah. Like it's so good. So I'll probably expand it out, try to add some modern ones, but there really aren't that many super unique batting stances in 2024. So yeah, we'll have to see. But that could be interesting.
So there you have it. Top 5 third base options and top 5 batting stances coming your way tomorrow on Top 5 Tuesday. So that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Of course, Top 5 Tuesday, once again, coming your way tomorrow. And then Wednesday, we'll be announcing the winners of our giveaway. So be sure to tune in to that episode as well. But for now, Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Ty Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.